The traditional art of eagle hunting in Mongolia dates back to the 15th century. Until now, the nomadic Kazakh tradition has been the preserve of men, with boys starting their training at the age of 13. That seems to be changing, though. Photographer and travel guide Svidensky went to document the skillful tradition in Mongolia. And while he was there, he came across Pan. She is one of Mongolia's first, perhaps the only female eagle hunter in the making. Well, we have had a massive response from many of you when we brought you these absolutely stunning photographs on BBC World News just over a week ago. So many comments on the website. And now we have the pleasure of speaking to the man who took them. Asha is with me here in the studio. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
We are so thrilled to be doing this story because for all of us on the team, when we looked at particularly one of these images, the joy that we saw on her face, I mean, it just sort of says it all. But why do you think so many people have loved your photos so much?
I think that most people love stories, and what I try to do throughout my photographs is to tell a story, tell a legend, more of just doing a documentary of what I've seen. And I think that's one of the things that made it a little bit more interesting, I guess.
So tell me the story and how far it dates back in history.
Of the Kazakh eagle hunters. It's a very old tradition. It was told that Genghis Khan had about 1,500 eagle hunters in his own personal guard. Nobody really knows when it started, but everybody knows it's a very, very old tradition. And sadly, few remain in that tradition in the communist area. And nowadays, there's sort of this coming back to the tradition by Kazakhs, especially in West Mongolia.
What did you feel when you discovered this young girl training her eagle?
It was amazing. The entire project was done in a way of me falling from one kid to the other. And once I had in my mind the idea of trying to photograph an eagle huntress, I had an amazing support from my guide, actually, who really liked the project. And after a couple of search through different families, we just found her. And once I was shooting her already in the mountains while practicing and trying to hunt, it felt to me like a dream, like something I wasn't sure if I'm going to wake up, if it's really happening. It's an amazing thing to think of something and then see it.
Yeah, we can imagine this relationship that she has with the eagles because it seems so intense. But how did she compete? I feel that she had to compete with the boys, or is she just in her own world?
I think in nomad culture, there's not such much as a competition between people. Every family lives by themselves, and they say there's about also 1,500 ways of practicing and hunting with an eagle, and every family has its own special technique that they're developing throughout the centuries. So her training is basically a thing between her, the eagle, and her father. And
her father's quite famous, isn't he?
He's one of the best hunters over there, actually. It was a weird experience to photograph him and not someone who's out there that nobody knows about.
How did they respond to you being there with all your equipment, taking very intimate pictures?
They were actually pretty cool about it. They really liked the idea of being photographed. And what I did when I came there, I used to open my laptop and show them the images. And every hunter, I showed them what I'm trying to do or what I did before, were really interested in the project and really helped me push it forward. And, you know, they had their own recommendation. You should go to this mountain, you should try to photograph this and try to catch that. It was really an open experience. We worked together, not me coming and trying to take sort of images. It was a collaboration between us.
Does it feel like these teenagers have quite a responsibility on their shoulders because they are having to continue with this very old tradition and yet the modern world is encroaching too?
I don't think Mongolia is in that situation yet. But I think that this culture, these traditions, it's something they love doing. If they won't love do it, they won't do it. This is the situation. And this is why it's so important to raise the awareness about it. Every family has its own technique, and every family is unique.
How predictable is the eagle? Like, is she sure, for instance, that it's going to come back when she sends it off?
Usually they don't come back. You should go ahead and pick them up. It takes about 6 months to train an eagle, and not all of the eagles go through the training. Some of them you just have to let go back to nature because they're not suitable.
Are they bred in captivity?
No, not at all. Those eagles, even when they're captured, they're still wild animals. They do release them back to nature after a while. And I guess it's sort of an understanding between the hunter and the eagle of what should be done and not a train.
We're seeing these fantastic photos of you now showing everyone your work. I mean, just expand on that a little bit. You've touched on it, what it was like to be in amongst them and working and how they responded to you.
It was amazing. It was about 40 days of traveling throughout the area, mostly researching and trying to find the right people to photograph. And you spend so much time on horseback in the cold. And when you're photographing, you're usually standing on a very interesting places in the mountains, trying not to fall. And as I said before, I was always trying to show them what I do and try to cooperate with them. And it was really interesting to see the way they reacted to it, the way they were interested in what I do and how I do it. And it was amazing. It's a hard experience, but it's a very good one.
And how was it for you emotionally, this journey, given in the past you've been a photographer for the Israeli military?
I guess it was a little bit easier, I would say, but Mongolia is very different than the military experience in Israel. Mongolia in general is just a beautiful country. It's very raw. You don't have roads, you don't have signs, you have no idea where you're going most of the time. And it made a very, very special journey for me because Mongolia was a fascination for me for more than 2 years. And to finally be there and see the places I read about and dreamed about was an amazing experience.
And we have pictures now from your time with the military. Did you
without
ever
the beard,
imagine,
though.
without the beard, yeah, clean shaven. Did you ever imagine when you were in the Middle East that you might one day be doing something completely different like this?
This has always been my dream, to be a documentary photographer. I didn't know what I would do or where will I do it, but even in the army, I already had a fascination for Mongolia. And in the army, to be a photographer kind of encouraged me to try and go into the documentary field.
And if we can just ask again about Ashel Pan, I mean, she is absolutely mesmerizing. What is her future? What does she want to do?
Well, it's hard to talk to a 13 teenage girl. The thing is, it's her choice. She's in between becoming a huntress or letting that go and go to school and for the regular course, let's say it that way. And I think it's very interesting to come back and see what will be her future in the coming years. And that's something, of course, I plan to do eventually.
Well, when you do, please get back in contact with us
I'll do my
because the
best.
response to your photos has been absolutely overwhelming. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.